The shotgun blast shattered the kitchen window before Russell even heard the roar. Glass rained down like brittle stars, and his father's voice cut through the chaos sharper than any bullet. "Get the hell out of my house, you goddamn freak!" Blood trickled from a shard's nick on Russell's cheek. But it was the venom in those words that burned deepest, carving a scar no stitches could mend. In that instant, 16-year-old Russell knew his world had exploded. Not from the gun, but from the man who'd once carried him on his shoulders like a king. Russell bolted into the night, backpack slung over one shoulder, the humid Alabama air slapping his face like a betrayal. Mobile streets blurred past, cracked sidewalks lined with shotgun houses, the distant hum of the bayou mocking his sobs. He didn't stop until his legs gave out in a derelict park, collapsing onto a bench slick with dew, where the only witness to his unraveling was a rusted swing creaking in the breeze. Hours ticked by in numb silence, the shotgun's echo replaying in his skull, until dawn painted the sky in bruised purples. No calls to friends. They'd whisper it around school by Monday. No texts to mom. She died giving him life, leaving dad to raise him alone, twisting grief into this homophobic fortress. Russell was on his own, a ghost in his own skin, the weight of faggot heavier than any storm. He hitched a ride north that morning, thumb out on I-10, eyes hollow as the trucker who picked him up, a burly guy named Hank with a Confederate flag sticker peeling on his dash. "Run away," Hank grunted, eyeing Russell's backpack like it held contraband. Russell nodded, throat too raw for lies. They drove in fits of small talk, Hank's radio blasting Waylon Jennings, until he dropped him at a Greyhound station in Montgomery. "World's full of assholes," Hank said, slipping him a crumpled 20. "Don't let M define you, kid." Russell clutched the bill like a lifeline, boarding a bus bound for anywhere but here, Atlanta, maybe, where the lights burned brighter and the shadows hid better. The city swallowed him whole. Atlanta's skyline loomed like a jagged promise, all steel and glass reflecting a boy he'd never been. He crashed in a shelter first, the kind with stained mattresses and sermons at dawn, where men like him learned quick to keep their eyes down and their stories locked. Days blurred into hustles, washing dishes at a greasy spoon for under-the-table cash, sleeping in alleys when the shelter overflowed. Hunger gnawed, but pride stung worse, pride that Dad's rage had shattered. Russell's first kiss had been weeks ago, stolen behind the bleachers with Tommy Reeves, the quarterback who'd whispered sweet nothings until the rumors hit. Dad found the notes, the crumpled Polaroid of two boys tangled in moonlight. "You're no son of mine," he'd snarled, the shotgun more prop than threat. But the damage was lethal. One rain-lashed evening, Russell ducked into a dive bar off Peachtree Street, the kind with neon flickering open like a siren's call. He was 17 now, forged a fake ID from a street hustler, nursing a watered-down Coke when Lewis walked in. Tall, broad-shouldered, with skin like polished mahogany and eyes that held the Gulf's storm-gray depth, Lewis commanded the room without trying. He slid onto the stool beside Russell, ordering a whiskey neat, his laugh low and warm as he bantered with the bartender about the Falcons' latest choke. Russell stole glances, heart hammering. Lewis was everything Dad warned against, everything he'd craved in secret. "You look like you could use a real drink," Lewis said, turning with a grin that crinkled his eyes. 25, a mechanic by trade, fresh from a shift at the Ford plant, grease still smudged on his knuckles. Russell stammered something about the weather, but Lewis saw through it, the tremor in his voice, the bruise of loneliness. They talked until last call, Russell spilling fragments, the shotgun, the bus, the endless gray of survival. Lewis listened, not with pity, but a quiet fire, sharing his own scars. A foster kid bounced through George's system, coming out at 18 to fists and farewells. Family ain't blood, Lewis said, clapping Russell's shoulder. It's the ones who stay when the world's screaming run. That night, Lewis offered his couch, a sagging sectional in a walk-up apartment overlooking the Beltline. Cluttered with engine manuals and half-finished canvases, Lewis painted in stolen hours, abstract swirls of blue and rage. Russell hesitated, the word pity bitter on his tongue, but exhaustion won. He woke to coffee brewing, Lewis sketching at the kitchen table, the morning light gilding his profile like a Renaissance thief. Gratitude bloomed slow, tentative, laundry folded neat, shifts at the plant where Lewis pulled strings for Russell's first legit job. They cooked gumbo on Sundays, Lewis's recipe from a grandmother he'd lost too young, the spice cutting through the ache like truth. Love crept in sideways. A brush of hands over shared takeout, laughter echoing late into VHS reruns of Top Gun. Russell's first sober touch was electric. Lewis's palm on his jaw during a thunderstorm, pulling him close with a whisper. You're safe here, Russ. Their kiss tasted of rain and revelation, bodies unfolding like secrets long buried. It was messy, fervent, nights tangled in sheets that smelled of motor oil and possibility. Mornings where Russell traced the tattoos snaking Lewis's arms. Stories inked in faded blue. A compass for direction lost. A broken chain for freedoms claimed. In Lewis, Russell found not just desire, but home, a man who saw his fractures and called them beautiful. But shadows lingered. Russell enrolled in community college, nights poring over sociology texts, dreaming of social work, mending what his father broke. Lewis cheered every framing Russell's first paper on queer youth homelessness like it was a masterpiece. Yet doubt festered. Russell caught Lewis's glances at his phone. Late-night whispers he pretended to sleep through. Just work, Lewis would say, but his eyes darted, a wall rising where bridges once spanned. The first crack came on Russell's 19th birthday. A party at their apartment, friends from the plant, a drag queen named Marla belting I Will Survive, and Lewis vanished mid-toast. Russell found him on the fire escape, phone clutched like a grenade. Who is it? Russell demanded, voice cracking. Lewis's face crumpled. My ex. Marcus. He's out of prison. The words hung heavy. Marcus, the firebrand activist who'd swept Lewis off his feet in college, only to drag him into a spiral of drugs and domestic fury. Prison for assault. A bar fight gone lethal. Now paroled, sniffing around old flames. I told him no, Lewis swore, pulling Russell close. But the seed of betrayal sprouted thorns. Marcus's texts escalated, promises of change, nostalgia laced with venom. Lewis deleted them, but Russell saw the hesitation, the late shifts that stretched into dawns. Jealousy gnawed, not of the man, but the hold, the way Marcus echoed Dad's rage, a reminder that love could curdle into violence. Summer sweltered into fall, and Russell's internship at a queer youth center hardened his resolve. He counseled kids like his younger self, doling out resources and radical empathy. Lewis beamed at the growth, but distance crept in. One night, after a shift, Russell came home to find Lewis pacing, a letter crumpled in his fist. He wants to meet. Says he needs closure. Russell's blood iced. And you? Silence stretched. Then, I don't know. Russ. Part of me wonders if I caused it. The fight erupted like dry lightning. Words flew, accusations of naivety, pleas for trust shattered on the floor. Russell stormed out, crashing at Marla's, the city's pulse mocking his isolation. Days blurred into radio silence, until Lewis showed at the center, eyes red-rimmed. I met him, told him we're done, for good. Proof, a restraining order, fresh ink. They reconciled in tears, bodies and barriers dissolving, but the scar pulsed, a reminder that forgiveness was a fragile art. By 21, Russell graduated, cap tossed to cheers under magnolia trees. Lewis proposed that night, not with rings, but a keychain etched, "Forever Mechanic," a vow in grease-stained silver. They moved to Savannah, salt air and historic haunts, buying a fixer-upper with creaky floors and a garden begging for azaleas. Russell launched a nonprofit, Outreach Roots, aiding Southern queer kids, while Lewis opened a garage specializing in custom bikes, his paintings fetching prices at local galleries. Life wove tight, lazy brunches at Forsyth Park, road trips to the Smokies, where they'd fuck under star-pricked skies, whispering futures. Yet the past is a patient hunter. A call came on a crisp October morning, 3 years into their Savannah idyll. Russell's phone buzzed with an unknown number, voice gravel rough. Son? Dad. The line crackled like that old shotgun. Lewis, sensing the freeze, squeezed his hand. He saw you on the news. That award for your center. Wants to talk. Russell hung up, nausea roiling. The award, a regional nod for youth advocacy, had splashed his face across Southern Voice, a queer mag Dad must have scavenged. Letters followed, scrawled apologies, Bible verses twisted into pleas. I was wrong, boy. Cancer's eaten me up. Come home. Guilt warred with fury. Lewis urged caution. You owe him nothing, but you deserve peace. The drive to Mobile was a funeral procession, Interstate 65 unspooling memories like film reels. Lewis rode shotgun, silent sentinel. Dad's trailer sagged on the bayou's edge, hurricane shutters peeling like old skin. He answered the door frail, oxygen tank hissing, eyes milky with regret. Russell, he rasped, no embrace offered. Inside, the air hung thick with stale smoke and unspoken sins. Photos lined the mantel, Mom's wedding portrait. Russell at 5 with a gap-toothed grin. But the shotgun rack gleamed empty, sold for meds. They talked in fits. Dad's decline, prostate gnawing relentless. The church that shunned him after the scandal. Nights replaying that night, whiskey his confessor. I thought I was saving you, he wept. From hell. But I damned us both. Russell's throat tightened. Stories of his own hell. The shelters. The hustles. Lewis's light pulling him from abyss. Dad nodded, tears carving tracks in liver-spotted cheeks. Proud of you, son. For fightin' what I broke. But truth demands teeth. Why now? Russell pressed. Dad's gaze dropped. Ain't just cancer. Lost the house to debts. Your aunt's comin' for the land. Need help. The betrayal landed like a gut punch. Apologies laced with agenda. The prodigal's fatted calf a mortgage statement. Lewis's jaw clenched beside him, but Russell held, Voice steel. You threw me away. Built my life from scraps. What makes you think I'll patch yours? Dad crumpled, sliding to knees on the linoleum, hands clasped like prayer. Forgive me, boy. Not for me, for you. The room spun. Russell saw the boy he'd been, shotgun glass in his hair, and the man he'd become, forged in fire. Lewis's hand on his back anchored. A whisper. Your call. Love. Minutes stretched eternal. The bayous croak the only chorus. Russell knelt too. Not in absolution, but bridge building, arms around a father frail as autumn leaves. We'll figure the land. But this, healing takes time. Start with truth. They left at dusk. Dad waving from the porch. A tentative pact in the air. Back in Savannah, Russell and Lewis walked the squares, Spanish moss draping like benediction. You gave him grace, Lewis murmured, kissing his temple. That's your power. Nights later, under quilted sheets, they made love slow and sacred, bodies a testament to survival's sweetness. Russell's center thrived. Chapters sprouting in Birmingham, Chattanooga roots delving deep. Dad visited once, frail but fighting, chemo badge pinned proud, sharing gumbo with Lewis like old soldiers. No fairy tale, wounds scar, not vanish. But in that kneeling, a circle closed, not perfect, but human. Russell learned forgiveness wasn't erasure, but evolution, carrying the pain lighter, so love could breathe free. In America's heartland, where magnolias bloom defiant, he and Lewis built not just a home, but a legacy queer, resilient, unbowed. The reconciliation's afterglow faded quicker than Russell hoped, leaving a residue of unease that clung like Savannah's humidity. Dad's visits became ritual, every other month. He'd rumble into town in a borrowed Chevy, oxygen tank strapped like a sidekick, bearing styrofoam clamshells of fried catfish from a mobile joint called The Hook. They'd gather at the house, Russell and Lewis in the kitchen, Dad perched at the scarred oak table, regaling half-told tales of his mill days, the ones skirting the edges of his bigotry's bloom. Lewis played host with effortless charm, refilling sweet tea, drawing Dad into debates on the Braves' pitching woes. But Russell caught the flicker. The way Dad's eyes skated past their linked hands, the pause before y'all instead of names. One evening, as cicadas orchestrated the twilight, Dad pulled Russell aside to the garden. Azaleas bowed under summer's weight, their blooms a riot of pink against the picket fence Lewis had whitewashed last spring. Son, Dad wheezed, voice gravel soft, I been readin' that book you sent. The one 'bout folks like you. This book is gay. Russell had mailed it on impulse. A bridge of pages. Dad's fingers twisted a handkerchief, knotted with nerves. Makes sense. Some. But the Lord. He don't change. Russell's chest tightened, the old wound pulsing. Not rejection, but resistance, a half step forward, two back. Faith's personal, Dad. Mine's in people now. They hugged awkward, bones brittle, but the air hummed with unspoken progress. Yet progress is a jealous lover. Marcus resurfaced like kudzu after a rain, anonymous letters postmarked from Atlanta, venom scripted in block letters. He'll leave you like he did me. Weak. Russell burned them in the sink. Flames dancing blue, but paranoia seeded. Lewis laughed it off at first. Ghosts gotta haunt somewhere. But Russell saw the strain, the way he'd check locks twice, glance over shoulders at the garage. Their intimacy frayed at edges. Quickies replacing marathons. Conversations veering from dreams to defenses. Russell threw himself into work. The center's expansion a bomb. A grant from a New York foundation funded a mobile outpost. Irony's bitter pill, he'd break bread with Dad over budget spreadsheets. Late nights, he'd collapse beside Louis, who sketched feverishly, canvases blooming with turbulent seas, figures locked in embrace or exile. "What's this one?" Russell asked one dawn, tracing a swirl of indigo where two silhouettes merged, then fractured. Louis's brush paused. "Us. If the world wins." The words landed heavy, prophecy unspoken. Fall brought the high tide of conflict. Dad's cancer surged, stage 4's grim decree, and he begged the move, Savannah's hospice better than Mobile's underfunded ward. Russell relented, guilt his chain, installing him in a sunroom overlooking the marsh. Louis converted the space with quiet efficiency. Adjustable bed, a mini fridge stocked with Boost, even a TV tuned to SEC football. Dad softened in increments, chuckling at Louis's dry wit, once clapping his back after a Jeopardy win. "You're all right, Lou." For a city boy, but nights, when pain clawed, Dad's mutters turned confessional, rants against the lifestyle, laced with pleas for prayer. Russell endured, Louis his shield, but resentment brewed, a slow poison. The betrayal struck on All Saints' Eve, fog rolling off the river like a shroud. Russell returned from a fundraiser, black tie, bow tie askew, to find the house dark, Dad's room light spilling gold. Voices murmured low, Dad's rasp, Louis's timbre. He paused at the threshold, heart thudding. "You think he knows?" Dad asked. Louis's reply sliced, "Not yet." "But he will." Russell pushed in, frame filling the door. "Know what?" The room froze, Dad Abed, gaunt under quilts. Louis by the window, hands jammed in pockets. Papers scattered on the nightstand. Legal briefs. A will's draft. Dad's voice broke first. "The land, son. Back home. Your aunt's suing to sell, develop it into condos. I signed it to her years ago, when things got bad." Russell's mind reeled, the bayou plot, Mom's wildflowers, his childhood fort. "And you," to Louis, the accusation hung. Louis met his gaze, unflinching. "He called me last month. Said you wouldn't listen. Met him in Mobile. Thought I could broker peace. Keep it in the family." Betrayal's blade twisted deep. Not the land's loss, but Louis's secrecy, the echo of Marcus's shadows. "You went behind my back? With him?" Russell's voice cracked, fury and grief entwining. Dad interjected, feeble, "It was my ask. Boy. Didn't want to burden you." But Louis bore the brunt, stepping forward. "I fucked up, Russ. Wanted to protect you. From this mess. From him dying mad." The words ignited. Russell shoved past, storming the garden, breath ragged. Louis followed, grabbing his arm. "Talk to me. You don't get to decide my burdens." Russell whirled, tears hot. "Dad threw me out. And now you're playing fixer? Like I'm still that broken kid." Louis's face fractured. Regret. Love. Fear. "You're not broken. You're everything. I can't lose you to this hate." They collapsed against the fence, sobs sinking, the fog swallowing their cries. Inside, Dad watched from the window, a silhouette of remorse. Dawn brought fragile truce. Over coffee black as regret, they dissected the wound. Lewis's motive rooted in his own scars, the foster boy's terror of abandonment. Russell confessed his terror too, of becoming his father, walls built from pain. Dad joined them, wheelchair creaking, voice a whisper, my fault. Always has been. The land? Lost to progress's maw, but in its seeding, a lesson. Holdings paled to heart's hold. Winter wrapped savannah in rare frost. Dad's decline a metronome to holidays. They strung lights on the porch, roasted chestnuts with neighbors, a queer couple from the block, a trans teen from the center. Dad partook, tentative, even toasting to new families with spiked eggnog. Lewis painted a triptych for the sunroom, fractured glass reforming into a window, light-piercing shards. Our story, he said, hanging it where Dad could see. But cancer's jaws clamped tighter. February's eve, monitors beeping dirge. Dad gathered them close. Russell. Lewis. I see it now. Y'all's love, it's holy. Don't let my sins shadow it. His hand, skeletal, clasped theirs. Forgive an old fool? Russell nodded, throat sealed. Lewis murmured, already did. Dad slipped away at dawn, marsh birds heralding, leaving a will revised in secret, the trailer to them, a gesture small but seismic. Grief's gale scoured clean. Funeral in mobile, sparse pews, hymns heavy then back to Savannah, where they scattered ashes in the garden. Azaleas dormant witnesses. Nights, Russell clung to Lewis, bodies a bulwark against void. We made it, Lewis breathed, fingers tracing spine. Through the fire, spring unfurled, and with it, renewal. The center's mobile branch opened, named Bayou Bridges, a nod to crossed waters. Russell spoke at the ribbon cut, voice steady, home isn't given, it's grown. Lewis stood beside, ring glinting on finger, a proper proposal under magnolias, champagne bubbles and yes. Their wedding came summer's peak, a courtyard affair, Marla officiating in sequins, vows exchanged with Bayou Blues playing soft. Dad's photo graced the arch, smiling gap-toothed. Years layered like patina. Russell's non-profit spanned the South. Lewis's garage a hub for queer artists' rides. They adopted a boy at 10, Jaden, all wide eyes and wary trust, teaching him love's grammar. Echoes lingered. A letter from Aunt. Contrite. Marcus's silence. A ghost banished. In quiet moments, Russell knelt in the garden, hands in soil, feeling Dad's presence. Not judgment, but quiet pride. Forgiveness, he learned, was no endpoint, but path winding. We choked, wondrous. In America's sun-baked soul, where rivers carve canyons of change, Russell and Lewis walked it hand in hand, kneeling only to plant seeds for tomorrow. Jaden's arrival cracked their world open like a geode, revealing facets Russell and Lewis hadn't known gleamed. He came from Atlanta's foster churn, a wiry kid with cornrows tight as his guarded heart, eyes that scanned rooms for exits before entrances. 7 years post-Dad's passing, their home had settled into rhythms. Lewis's garage echoing with torque wrenches and laughter. Russell's office a warren of grant files and success stories. But the nursery they'd prepped, crib dusted, walls painted sky blue, waited like a held breath. The first weeks were choreography of caution. Jaden poked at breakfasts, grits Lewis spiked with shrimp, a low-country twist, muttering thanks like a foreign phrase. Nights, he'd wake screaming from dreams of hands that bruised, not held. Russell sat vigil, rocking him gentle, whispering, "You're safe, little man. We're your anchors." Lewis brought distractions. Model cars assembled on the kitchen floor, tiny engines purring under his grease-black nails. "See, you turn this valve." And boom, power. Jaden's grin flickered first time the motor revved. A spark in the gloom. But integration's a marathon, potholed with pitfalls. School started rocky. Jaden at 12 now, enrolled in Savannah Arts Academy, his sketches raw bursts of color masking turmoil. Bullies sniffed vulnerability, taunting foster freak, in hallways lined with palmetto fronds. Russell fielded calls from counselors, Lewis fuming over dinner. Kids are crueler than cancer sometimes. They parented deliberate. Family meetings under the live oak. Rules etched fair. Honesty paramount. After the secrets that once sundered them. Jaden's thaw came sideways, like love always did for Russell. A weekend at Tybee Island. Waves crashing turquoise. They built sandcastles fortified against tide. Lewis buried Jaden up to his neck in wet pack, crowning him Sand King, laughter peeling free for the first time. That night, bonfire crackling, Jaden leaned into Russell's side, marshmallow sticky fingers tracing his watch. "You guys. You chose me?" The question hung, stars pricking black velvet. Russell nodded, throat full. "Every day, kid. Blood's just biology." Lewis ruffled his hair. "Family's the rewrite, yet shadows of the past prowled." Marcus, that dormant specter, stirred via a chance encounter. Lewis at an auto show in Atlanta, Jaden in tow for the vintage rides. Marcus cornered them by a '67 Mustang, leaner now, parole's polish fading. "Lou," he drawled, eyes raking possessive. Jaden shrank behind legs, sensing the chill. Lewis's stance hardened. "We're good, Mark. Keep walking." But Marcus's gaze lingered on Jaden, a smirk twisting, "Cute kid." "Yours." The implication slithered, doubt, danger. Back home, Lewis confessed over porch rockers, twilight gilding the marsh. He said shit about us not lasting, raising a boy wrong. Russell's fury simmered low. "He's poison. We block him everywhere." But the encounter unearthed old fissures. Lewis's nightmares resurfacing, thrashing awake with apologies for ghosts. Jaden overheard one, padding into their room at 3 a.m., eyes wide. "Is the bad man coming?" They held him between. Truths parceled gentle. "No, baby. We're stronger than bad men." The real storm brewed from within. The center's board, paragons of progress, clashed over expansion. A Knoxville chapter proposed, but funders balked at Southern bias, whispers of Russell's personal drama, with Dad's legacy tainting neutrality. "You're too close," the chairwoman said in a Zoom call, her Manhattan accent clipped. Emotions cloud judgment. Russell reeled, his story, the shotgun's echo, the very fuel for his fire. Now liability? Lewis rallied. "Fuck him. We bootstrap like always." But doubt crept. Nights when Russell paced the study, grant rejections piling like autumn leaves. Crisis crested at Jaden's school play, a Midsummer Night's Dream, him as Puck, mischief incarnate. They sat front row, Lewis's arm slung casual. Pride swelling as Jaden capered. Voice piping clear. Post-curtain. Parents milled. Congratulations flowing. Until a knot formed. 2 dads. 1 son. Drawing stares from the Bible Belt Brigade. A father, khakis crisp, cross pendant gleaming, muttered loud to his wife. What's this world coming to? Indoctrinating kids. Jaden, flushed from bows, overheard, face crumpling. He bolted to the car, slamming doors, sobs muffled in the back seat. Homebound, the dam broke. They hate us, Jaden wailed, backpack hurled. Russell knelt, a level. Some do, kid. But hate's loud 'cause it's scared. We choose love louder. Lewis chimed. Remember the sandcastle? Tide comes. We rebuild. They did. Ice cream ritual. Puck's lines recited with flair, turning sting to story. But Russell's resolve hardened. The center needed him unbowed. The betrayal's echo resounded when the board ousted him, citing conflict of interest. Letters cited Dad's homophobic history, twisted into scandal. Russell's vision fractured, years poured, souls saved, now discarded like yesterday's news. He confronted the chair in a coffee shop off River Street, foghorns moaning distant. My past isn't poison, it's purpose. She sipped latte, unmoved. Perception is reality. Russell. Step back. Devastated. He drove the coast road. Salt wind whipping. Lewis's texts pinging urgent. Pulled over at a overlook. Waves gnashing below. Despair crested. What if they were right? What if his scars doomed them all? Lewis found him there. Jaden asleep in the truck bed under blankets. We don't need their permission to matter, Lewis said. Sliding beside, hand on thigh. You built this from nothing. We'll build again. That night, Phoenix rose. Russell resigned publicly. Op-ed in The Advocate. My father's shadow. My light. A manifesto weaving shotgun to sunroom. Betrayal to bridge. It went viral. Donations surging. Allies emerging from woodwork. A new board formed. Grassroots. Queer-led. Rechristening chapters Russell Roots. Jaden beamed at the first meeting, sketching logos fierce and free. Summer solstice brought ceremony. Beach vow renewal for them. Jaden scattering petals. Waves lapped forgiving. Lewis's lips on his. Through every storm, Jaden, now 13, officiated clumsy. Ring bearer turned ring giver. Laughter mingled with sea roar. A family forged, not found. Yet humaneness demands depth. Jaden's first crush. A classmate named Eli. Sparked awkward talks of consent. Coming out. Like you and Dad? He asked, cheeks burning. Russell nodded, sharing his bleacher kiss. The fallout. Love's worth the fight. But you're the boss of your heart. Lewis added, and if he breaks it, we got duct tape and therapy. As leaves turned, Russell mentored a young activist. A trans kid from Dad's old mill town. Closing circles. The land back home? They'd bought a sliver. Planted a community garden, wildflowers for Mom. Benches for stories. Kneeling there one dusk. Soil rich under nails. Russell felt it. Not closure, but continuum. Life's plot twists, but love, messy, mended endures. Adolescence hit Jaden like a rogue wave, turbulent and transformative, testing the seawalls Russell and Lewis had so carefully constructed. 15. He shot up lanky limbs, voice cracking mid-sentence. His sketches evolving from whimsy to raw emotion, charcoal strokes slashing at canvases like accusations. The academy nurtured his talent, but home became arena, hormones raging, boundaries tested, the echo of his origins whispering doubts. "Am I really yours?" he'd hurl during flare-ups, doors slamming like thunderclaps. Russell absorbed, heart aching, mirroring his own teen tempests, while Lewis countered with structure, grounding rules in love's firm soil. One spring, the rift widened. Jaden fell hard for Eli, now out and proud, their romance a blaze of stolen texts and park bench makeouts. But Eli's family, staunch Methodists, crosses etched in every corner, clamped down, shipping him to conversion camp under guise of summer retreat. Jaden shattered, rage turning inward, skipped classes, graffiti on his bedroom wall spelling fake. Russell found him there. Spray can limp, eyes hollow. "They can't fix what's not broken," he said, pulling him into a hug that smelled of turpentine and tears. Lewis drove to Eli's block that night. Not confrontation, but quiet vigil, headlights off, a silent solidarity until cops rolled by. The incident ignited activism's fuse. Jaden channeled fury into art, murals for the center, bold declarations, fists clasped rainbow, slogans, love uncamped. It caught fire online, TikToks going viral, drawing hate mail floods but also funders, a documentary crew from Atlanta sniffing story. Russell guided cautious, fame's a double-edged blade, son, but Jaden, firebrand born, dove deep, interviewing survivors, his voice steady on camera. "They tried to erase me. I painted back." Lewis watched wary, grease under nails from long shifts, his garage booming, custom jobs for celebs passing through. "Kids got your fight, Russ," he'd say over beers on the porch, marsh frogs chorusing. But pride mingled worry. Jaden's dives into danger. Protests at the Capitol. Chants against "Don't Say Gay" bills echoed Russell's youth, but amplified by algorithms. One rally turned ugly. Counter-protesters shoving, zip ties clicking, Jaden's wrist bruised purple. Homecoming was hospital hushed. Lewis pacing ER tiles, Russell holding Jaden's hand. "Worth it?" he whispered. Jaden's grin. Split lip be damned. Every scar. Betrayal specter slunk back via unlikely vessel. Aunt Clara. Dad's sister. Long estranged. She'd sold the Bayou land years prior, pocketing proceeds. But now, widowed and wanting, she surfaced. Emails saccharine. Invites to family reunions in Mobile. For Jaden's sake, she cooed over brunch at a Forsyth cafe, pearls prim. Russell smelled the grift, inheritance hints, a codicil dad had whispered of on his deathbed, tying loose ends to bloodlines pure. Lewis scoffed post-meal, snake oil in Sunday dress, but Jaden, craving roots, pleaded. "One visit, please." They relented. Road trip southbound, windows down to Salt Breeze. The old trailer, now Clara's rental, gussied with lace curtains, welcomed wary. Dinner sprawled. Gumbo simmered. Stories spun of Mom's youth, Dad's wilder days before the bottle bent him. Jaden lapped it, questions tumbling, but Russell caught the cracks. Clara's eyes on their joined hands, the Bible-thumping soft emphasis on prodigal returns. Bedtime. She cornered him in the hall. "He's a good boy, Russell. But this lifestyle. For his soul, the old script, revised for nephew. Morning brought the blow over coffee. Clara slid papers across, a trust for Jaden. Strings attached. Relocation to mobile. Boarding school. Away from. Influences. Lewis's mug cracked on saucer. Russell's laugh barked bitter. You think you can buy him from us? Jaden, eavesdropping from stairs, burst in. No, they're my dad's. Chaos cascaded shouts. Slammed doors. Tires screeching gravel as they fled. Back in Savannah, Jaden wept rivers. Am I a burden? Russell cradled him fierce. You're our miracle, kid. Blood be damned. The fallout forged steel. They lawyered up, contesting the trust. Clara's ploy exposed as greed. Dad's will ironclad in their favor. Jaden's mural series. Bloodlines redrawn, toured galleries. Proceeds funding legal aid for queer families. Eli returned. Camp-scarred but unbroken. Their bond rekindled at a beach bonfire. Kisses tentative under moon. Lewis taught him to drive stick in the garage lot. Stalls forgiven with grins. Yet personal tempests brewed. Russell's 40th loomed. A milestone mocking with mirrors, gray threading temples. Laugh lines etching deep. Imposter syndrome whispered. Success built on others' pain. His shotgun origin a crutch. Therapy unpacked it. Sessions with a counselor named Theo. Voice like worn leather. You're not your father's echo, Theo said. You're the harmony he couldn't hear. Lewis joined once. Admitting his own haunt, fear of inadequacy. The mechanic forever blue-collar to Russell's acclaim. I fix cars. You fix worlds. Russell kissed him there. In the waiting room's sterile hush. You fix me. Jaden's high school capstone. A thesis on Southern queer resilience. Interviews woven with Dad's letters, earned accolades. But graduation eve cracked open. Post-ceremony feast at the old pink house. Toasts flowing. Jaden pulled them aside to the courtyard fountain. I'm by, he blurted. Rainbow pin glinting. And scared shitless. Pride swelled. Tears pricking. Lewis hugged first. Welcome to the club. Ace. Russell added. Fears the toll booth. Loves the open road. Summer's heat wave tested anew. Wildfires licking Georgia's edges. Smoke choking skies. The center evacuated families. Russell coordinating from a command van. Lewis hauling supplies in his truck. Jaden volunteered. Face masked. Distributing water to displaced. Queer elders. Trans youth. Echoes of his story. One night, ashflecked. They collapsed on the porch. Jaden's head on Russell's lap. We save each other, he murmured. Truth distilled. Clara's final gambit came autumnal. A lawsuit over moral turpitude, claiming unfit parenting. Media frenzy followed. Headlines sensational. Aunt battles gaze for nephew. Russell faced it head-on. Presser raw. Family isn't custody. It's choice. Lewis testified. Voice steady. I chose them. Best decision. Jaden's art spoke loudest. Exhibit at the trial's eve. Canvases screaming solidarity. Verdict. Dismissed. Clara's empire crumbling under scrutiny. Winter solstice healed. They traveled north, New York. Lights ablaze. Jaden's first-time square whirl. Under Rockefeller tree. Gloved hands linked. Russell knelt, not in plea, but play. Snowball in palm. Laughter echoed. A family's anthem. Back south. Garden bloomed defiant. Wildflowers nodding to ghosts. Life's narrative arcs. But humanity lies in the turns. Betrayals bridged. Loves layered. Russell, surveying his patchwork kin, knew kneeling wasn't weakness, but wisdom's pose. Maturity draped Jaden like a well-tailored coat. 18 now, bound for SCAD with a full ride in illustration. His portfolio a blaze of narrative fury. The nest emptying loomed bittersweet. Russell and Lewis rattling in the fixer-upper turned haven. Echoes of boyish chaos fading to quiet. Empty nest syndrome, Lewis joked over breakfast, flipping pancakes heart-shaped. More room for us. Winks led to rediscoveries. Date nights at rooftop bars. Slow dances in the kitchen to Coltrane. Bodies remembering youth's fire without its frenzy. But legacy calls insistent. Russell's nonprofit, now a national force. IDC. Expansion, a policy arm lobbying against conversion camps. Jaden's passion project intertwined. He consulted. Voice video from dorm. Make it fierce. Dad. The move stirred dust. Russell uprooted. Lewis's garage franchised to a protege. Savannah's salt traded for Potomac's pulse. Packing boxes unearthed relics. Dad's Bible. Annotated in margins with Russell's highlights. Lewis's first canvas. Indigo swirls of their dawn kiss. Jaden's baby book. Ultrasound grainy beside adoption decree. DC. Embraced with vigor. Brownstone in DuPont Circle. Cherry blossoms framing windows. Russell testified before Congress. Words honed. I've seen shotguns shatter homes. Let laws build them whole. Applause thundered. But backlash bade. Op-eds decrying agenda. Trolls doxing their address. Lewis fortified. Security cams. Self-defense classes. His calm a counterpoint to Russell's fire. We fought bayous. This is just bureaucracy. Jaden's visits bridged miles. Thanksgiving flights. Tales of college crushes. A non-binary artist named Riley who sketched beside him in studios. There. Everything. He'd gush. Cheeks flushed. Lewis grilled gentle. Treat 'em right, or Uncle Lou's got wrenches. Pride swelled. But worry nipped. Jaden's drive bordering burnout. Murals commissioned faster than sleep allowed. The high tide of trial came unbidden. A class action suit against a camp chain. Survivors' stories mirroring Eli's scars. Jaden's art as exhibits. Russell led. But ghosts convened. Clara. Subpoenaed. Crumbling on stand. I thought I was saving him. Her admission. Tear-streaked. Forgive me. Like you did your father. Russell's pause stretched courtroom tense. Then nod. Healing starts with hearing. Verdict. Landmark win. Camps shuttered. Headlines heralding queer victory. Yet victory's shadow lengthens. Lewis's annual checkup yielded shadows. Prostate whispers. Irony's cruel jest echoing Dad's thief. Biopsies blurred days. Waiting rooms familiar foes. Early, Doc said. Treatable. But fear feasted. Russell's vigils. Jaden flying in mid-semester. Hands clasped in circles of worry. Chemo loomed. But Lewis faced it mechanic-style, tools out. Dismantling dread. We rebuild engines. Bodies are just flesh and fury. Jaden's graduation. Cap and gown under Savannah oaks. Riley beside marked milestone. Speeches soared. His on resilience. My dad's taught me. Betrayal bends, but doesn't break. Post-party. Beach walk. They buried time capsule. Dad's letter. Lewis's sketch. Jaden's first mural scrap. For the next us, Jaden said. Sand gritting toes. Lewis's remission came summer's turn. Scans clean as new chrome. Celebration. Road trip retracing routes. Mobile's bayou. Garden thriving with volunteers. Atlanta's dive bar. Toasts to Hank the trucker. In a smoky cabin, under quilt of stars, Russell and Lewis renewed again. Vows whispered, bodies affirming life's lease. Decades distilled. Jaden married Riley in a courtyard ceremony. Murals framing arches. Russell officiating with Theo's wisdom. Grandkids came, twins, one with Jaden's eyes, the other Lewis's laugh, filling the brownstone with chaos anew. Russell retired partial. Memoirs penned. Shotgun to sunrise. Bestseller bridging divides. One autumn, back in Savannah for a center gala, Russell knelt in the garden, knees creaky, soil cool. Wildflowers bowed, Dad's spirit rustling leaves. Lewis joined, hand on shoulder, full circle. Russell smiled, pulling him down. Endless, love. Endless. In America's vast tapestry, frayed threads of prejudice, vibrant weaves of persistence, Russell's story etched human. Kicked out, knelt to, rising unscarred. Not by kitsch, but ballad love's labor, eternally. Forgiveness flowered, not flawless, but fertile, seeding tomorrows where no sun kneels alone.